Welcome, everyone, to the Autism Society of Southern Arizona's Lunch and Learn for today. We are super excited to have Tiffany Howard with us to teach us about calming our anxiety with tapping. It's something we definitely all need. Tiffany, would you like to go take it over?
Thank you, Kate. Before we begin, let me just start my timer so I can make sure we have enough time for question and answers. Okay. Also, before we begin, I'd like to read a disclaimer. This talk is designed to inform, not to provide medical advice. When it comes to your personal, physical, and mental health, consult your doctor or other medical professionals. Okay, to get into today's fun and healing wellness topic, I always like to begin by asking all participants to take 3 deep breaths. And please follow along with me. I will guide you through the deep breaths. And as you take these deep breaths, focus, if you can, on the breath, on the rise and fall of your abdomen. Okay, so let's begin. With me, inhale, exhale. Second one, inhale, exhale. On the third one, inhale, and take a verbal sigh. Okay, so tapping. In 2012, I was experiencing chronic depression and having suicidal thoughts. So I went to this place called the Sedona Mago Retreat in Sedona, Arizona. I signed up for a 4.5-day retreat called the Tao Life Retreat. I had no idea what to expect, but they taught me eating meditation, sleeping meditation, walking meditation, all sorts of meditation. But most importantly, they taught me this thing called meridian tapping. I had never heard of meridian tapping. And when I went to that session, and the facilitator explained, we're going to tap all over your body, from your head to your toe. I thought, how's that going to help me? Well, I was feeling empty. I was feeling hollow. Um, I wanted to die, so I figured anything would help. But I thought it was strange that I was going to be tapping on my body, and I did it. And after that first session, I just broke out in tears, which was a release for me. I had no idea how it worked, what it was. And over the course of those 4.5 days when I left, I was on the road to healing. I was myself again. Um, and it was like, wow, just doing this on my body. So what is it? Tapping, meridian tapping focuses on the Chinese medical system of acupuncture. So we have these meridians on either side of our body. And these meridians are connected to organs in our body. So there's a meridian connected to your stomach organ, your kidney, your gallbladder, and so on and so forth. And the thing is, at the end of these meridians, there's what's called an endpoint. And that's the point on a specific location on either side of your body where, if they're doing acupressure, acupuncture, they're using needles. They are manipulating the energy flowing through that particular point. Well, it's tapping. You're using acupressure, your fingertips, to balance or unblock the energy flow at that particular point on your body. So let me get into more of what is tapping. The first to study this, or one of the first, is Dr. Roger Callahan. He started studying meridians and seeing how they worked if you tapped on them. He was a trained psychiatrist. So not only did he use acupressure, he also incorporated psychotherapy, which is simply talk therapy. So he combined the tapping on points on your body with also verbalizing whatever issue you're having, whatever pain you're having, whatever phobia, whatever traumatic experience you're going through, by talking about it as you tapped. Then one of his students, Gary Craig, decided to simplify the tapping points. And he created what we know now as EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. So tapping, again, how it works. You tap on these points. You talk about how you're feeling as you tap on these particular points. And the tapping allows for relief. It allows movement or restores movement of the energy that's blocked in your body. So I like to give this example. If you've had a smoothie or a milkshake or a slushie, and in the straw, sometimes ice gets stuck, or a piece of banana, or whatever it is. So the straw, imagine the straw is your body. And if we're sad, or we're anxious, or we're depressed, or we're feeling some pain, this stops the flow of energy moving in your body. And like the straw gets stuck with whatever the ice is, what do? We may thump the straw, we may blow in the straw to get whatever's stuck to move. That's what tapping does. Tapping on these points and saying, hey, I'm anxious today, or I'm sad today, moves that energy and restores the balance of energy in your body. It restores wellness. So let's see where we are. So what are some healing benefits of tapping? Why tapping? I'll give you some more personal stories, and then I'll share the healing benefits of tapping. As I mentioned at the beginning, it began with me going to the Sedona Mago retreat and learning meridian tapping, which is the basis of all tapping, and experiencing the relief of the depression and suicidal ideations. So I know personally it works. Then, unfortunately, I've been in 7 car accidents, and I got PTSD. I couldn't get into a car without having a panic attack, without freaking out, without taking a moment. And then when I got into the car, even trying to start the car and telling myself, okay, Tiffany, you have to go. You have to go. Nobody can drive you. You don't have a chauffeur. And then the physical injury, my neck. I couldn't move my neck. Each time I strained my neck and the pain from that and not being able to move it. So I use tapping to help with the PTSD so that I can drive. And my last car accident was in 2010, so I've been driving since then without fear of getting into a car. And since 2010, using tapping, I haven't had any pain. And I will tell you, I can move my neck up and down and left and right. When it was stiff, I had a neck brace on. So I know from personal experience, it works. I taught my mother tapping when she was stressed. I had a sister who she didn't like this job, and she would tell me every morning before she went to work, she would get these headaches. I knew instinctively, you don't like that job, but I taught her tapping, and I said, well, before you go to work, you tap. I'll teach you, give you a script, you tap. She started tapping, and she told me she didn't have a headache at work. And eventually she realized without me telling her that that wasn't the best job for her. That she didn't want to be there. And that's why her body was telling her she wasn't in alignment with that job. So some of the healing benefits of tapping. After this, you can Google it. There are many studies that show that tapping, Pearl, excuse me, my baby's my fur baby's crying. That tapping relieves anxiety, relieves PTSD, relieves depression. The tapping helps with weight management. It improves sleep. It reduces pain. It lessens cravings for certain foods. The tapping also enhances athletes' performance. And that's why you have many coaches and sports teams that use tapping to help their athletes with enhancing performance. You have schools around the United States that use tapping to help students with testing anxiety. I know personally that the military uses tapping to help soldiers with PTSD. And the reason why Dr. Callahan started studying tapping, meridian tapping, is because he was working with a patient who had a phobia of water. She couldn't get in swimming pools. She was afraid to even take a bath. She was so afraid of water, period, that she couldn't even bathe her own children. And so he used tapping to help her get over her phobia of water. And for 30 years, she was cured of tapping completely, cured of her water phobia completely. So how can tapping help not only people on the spectrum, but people who are not on the spectrum? As I mentioned, I've done some of the research. I know people on the spectrum deal with depression, anxiety, sleep disorders. And in my film, Tapping with Autism, I worked with a family who had 2 young adults dealing with depression, anxiety, anger. The parents were dealing with stress, and I taught them tapping. I've been in contact with them. They're still tapping, and they've now taught other members of their family because it has worked for them. So how do we tap? Kate, if you can pull up that first document of the woman with the tapping points? Yes. Okay. So as I talk here, you see this slide here, so you can see the tapping points, which I'll go over. So how do we tap? There's a script. And when we go through at the end, our tapping demonstration as a group to release anxiety, you will see the script. So you have to have this script. It's a simple script. I will tell you, you don't need a prescription for this. You don't need medication. You don't need anything. You can do the tapping yourself. You can, if you'd like to work with a EFT facilitator or practitioner, please choose one who you know is capable and you are in alignment with how they structure their sessions. And you can tap for someone else. It's called surrogate tapping. When my stepdad was in hospice and he was dealing with, he had a brain cancer, kidney cancer, and lung cancer, and he was in so much pain, I tapped for him. So surrogate tapping, you can tap for the other person as the other person. So you tap on your body and you would repeat what you think they're feeling, or you can actually tap on their body. There's also a tapping bear for children that has the tapping points on the bear to help children learn tapping. So let me go back to how we tap. There's a script and there's a setup statement which begins with even though, and you focus on something specific, not general. You focus on a specific issue, like even though I have this pain in my neck, even though I'm afraid, even though I'm hungry, but I don't want to eat. So there's all forms of tapping. There's argumentative tapping where I don't want to eat this cake, but I do. So you can do argumentative tapping. So we have the script, we have the setup statement, and we have, most important, the points of tapping. We begin each tapping round with the karate chop point. So as you see on the document, the karate chop point, if you look at me, so you will tap on your non-dominant hand. I'm left-handed, so I tap on my right hand. So tap on your non-dominant hand. And you know, like you go down as a karate chop, it's called the karate chop point. So if you get your index finger of your dominant hand and you put it at the end of your pinky on your non-dominant hand, and you put your thumb at your wrist, where your wrist begins, and you just squeeze up to the center. There's a fleshy part right there if you push in. That's the karate chop point. So we begin each round of tapping with the karate chop point, and we will state 3 times a script beginning with even though, whatever your issue is, whatever pain you're feeling, whatever traumatic experience you're going through, you put it in there and then you end with something. So for instance, even though I'm not feeling well, I deeply and completely accept where I am. And you repeat that 3 times, then you go to the next points. The next point is the eyebrow point. If you look on the document, the eyebrow point is where your eyebrows begin between the ridge of your nose. So it's either eyebrow. You can tap one eyebrow point or you can tap them both. The next point, if you go straight down your eyebrows, right there, you know how sometimes people get headaches and so they put pressure on that point right there? That's the side of the eye point. So you can tap on one side or you can tap on both sides. The next point is called under the eye. You can tap right underneath your eye. There's a bone right there. You tap there gently. You don't have to tap hard, gently, or you can tap on both. The next point is called under the nose, right? You're tapping right under the nose in that little crevice right there. The next point is called the chin point, but it's not directly on the chin. It's right underneath your lower lip. The next point is called the collarbone point. So where your collarbone is, you have those two bones there. You go down an inch, left and right, and you can tap on one side or you can tap on both. Okay. The next point is called under the arm. So for a woman, it's where your bra strap is. For a man or just anyone, it's 4 inches underneath below your armpit. You can tap on one side under the arm, or you can tap on both at the same time. Whatever works for you, that's what's most important. And then we end the round with the top of the head. For those who have children, that soft spot, that's the top of the head. And if you need more specifically where to pinpoint it, if you put your both index fingers on the top of your ears and you just go directly up to the top of your head where the points, your index fingers meet, that's the point, top of the head. So we have just completed one round of tapping. If we do more than one round, we don't have to begin with the karate chop point. We just go from the top of the head to the eyebrow point, side of the eye, under the eye, under the nose, chin, collarbone, under the arm, top of the head. Okay? So before we tap on an issue, you rate the level of intensity of whatever pain you're feeling or how you're feeling about that issue, situation, or experience from 0 to 10. Because I've done this for so long, I like to just sit in my body and see how my body feels before I tap. Then after your tapping rounds, you rate from 0 to 10 how you feel. That's when you know, or how you know, if it's working for you. It all depends. For some people, they continue to tap till they get to 0. For some people, they may start off at 8, and after the round, they go to a 3, and they're happy. Again, it's how you feel when you want to stop. When I feel a relief in my body, I'm good. So what does relief feel like for some people? For some people, they may laugh. For some people, they may belch. For some, they yawn. For some, they cry. For some, they just sigh. And some do other things I don't necessarily want to say, but the energy comes out, okay? At the end of the tapping round, drink some water. Why? Because, as I stated at the very beginning, we're trying to balance energy. So we're moving the energy that's been blocked, and that releases toxins. So we drink the water to flush out the toxins. Okay, let me check on our time. I want to say with the sleeping, so many people have trouble sleeping. You can tap and your self-talk, your talk therapy can be out loud. When we do our tapping on and to release anxiety, I'm going to, of course, verbalize the anxiety or how I'm feeling out loud, orally, for all of you to hear. You can do the same, or you can tap mentally. So how does that help? If you're not sleeping well, you can tap mentally. If you tap physically, it's going to give you energy. You'll see that once we go through the tapping demonstration. You're going to, because it's balancing or restoring energy in your body, you're going to feel energetic. So if you're having trouble sleeping, you wouldn't tap physically, you would tap mentally. You just go through the rounds in your head, mentally going through the rounds, seeing yourself going through each point and saying whatever you're feeling. At some point, it tires out the brain and your thoughts, and you get sleepy and you fall asleep. Again, I know this from personal experience because I've done it, and especially last night with all that's going on with the election, I had to do it to knock myself out so I could go to sleep. So it works. Be gentle with yourself. Like I said, every person is different. You may have to tap 1 round. Somebody else may have to tap 3 rounds. Okay. So, Kate, are we ready? Let's pull up that second. There we go. That second document. So I've already created the script, and those who registered for this Lunch and Learn will receive this document. It's a handout that I created, and on the handout, it tells you, it gives you, explains the setup statement. It gives you some tapping tips. It has 2 diagrams to show you the tapping points. And it also has a section for notes. So I created that for you to have and to be able to use. So let's release some anxiety. So this is called mechanical EFT. That's because it's simple and you repeat the same script over and over. Okay? So if we're ready, everyone, we're going to begin, everyone, with the karate chop point on your non-dominant hand. So before we begin that, what's the first thing? We have to measure the level of intensity of whatever we're feeling. Today, the theme is anxiety. If you're feeling some anxiety right now, just think about that anxiety. Go in your body and feel okay. Give it a rating from 0 to 10. If you can. If you can't, just check in with your body and like, how am I feeling now? I'll give you a moment. Okay, if you have some paper or something, just write it down. If you can remember, great. Okay, so we have an idea of how we're feeling. Okay, so here we go. We're going to begin. You can either, since it's up on the screen, you can say out loud the setup statement with me, or you can go through the tapping points as I repeat the script. So we'll begin with the karate chop point on your non-dominant hand. You can use a finger, 2 fingers, all your fingers. It doesn't matter, just as long as you tap and you tap gently. So here we go on the karate chop point. Even though I feel anxious, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I feel anxious, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I feel anxious, I deeply and completely accept myself. eyebrow point. I feel anxious. Side of the eye, I feel anxious. Under the eye, I feel anxious. Under the nose, I feel anxious. Chin point, I feel anxious. Collarbone point, I feel anxious. Under the arm, I feel anxious. Top of the head, I feel anxious. Again, second round, I feel anxious. Side of the eye, I feel anxious. 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 One more round. I feel anxious. 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 Take a deep breath. And just sit there, sit in it. Mm. 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 I need a moment because it always makes me just floaty. Now I want to do another tapping with you. I call this just free talk therapy. You can sit, you can follow along, and I will express whatever comes through me. Okay? So I may not say side of the eye, you follow along because you know the points now, and you don't have to repeat anything. Just listen and go through the rounds. Okay, I'll begin with the karate chop point. Everyone, we'll begin with the karate chop point on your non-dominant hand. Even though I feel anxious in this moment, I choose to let it go. Even though I feel anxious, I can accept where I am. Even though I feel anxious, I know this too shall pass. I feel anxious, but I choose to let it go. I feel anxious, and I can let it go. I feel anxious. I know I can let it go. I choose to let it go. Even though I feel anxious, I choose to let it go. I feel anxious, but I can do something about it. I choose to let it go. That's what I would do. I feel anxious, but I choose to let it go. I feel anxious, and I choose to let it go. I accept myself right where I am. I choose to let it go. This too shall pass. Take a deep breath. Check in how you feel, how your body's doing, just where you are. No judgment, just accepting where you are. Well, ladies, you have now tapped. As the title of my first book, Tap That, you have tapped that. So Thank you, Kate, for sharing the documents. Thank you, everyone, for being present. Any questions? I would like to state, okay, excuse me, come on, come on. She'll continue to whine if I don't pick her up. People ask, and I asked this when I first went through my EFT training, why do we tap on the negative? And my teacher responded as Gary Craig, who developed EFT, and anyone else who does EFT facilitators would tell you, we tap on the negative because it's the elephant in the room. It doesn't cause you to feel more negative. If you're mopping your kitchen and you see some dirt, you don't skip it, right? You don't not mop it. So you can tap on the issue, which may be negative. You can tap on something positive. Whatever you tap on, it's up to you. I use tapping to tap on everything. I tapped before this event so that I could be calm and ready to present. When I was coupled and I wanted to tell my partner, you're messing up, so I wouldn't just go off. I would tap before the conversation so I could be calm and be able to articulate what I was feeling without just going off. I tap pretty much on anything. When I'm having challenges with money, I tap. When I had a cold, which is not very often, I tapped on that and got rid of the cold fairly quickly because moving energy. So I'm open for questions.
We have a question in the chat. It's Keith said, thank you for this, so helpful and very clear. The number of times each point is tapped does not have to be consistent.
No.
So you're not counting, okay. And
No.
the script was different between the two demonstrations. Is there a set of rules for the script?
Okay, the first script was called mechanical EFT, where it's just simple and everything, it just repeats. I am anxious, I am anxious, I am anxious. And the second one, when you receive the document that Kate will send you, you'll see I have two different scripts. The second one is varied. So no, doesn't have to be the same. No rules for that other than tap on a specific issue. Don't generalize it. Specific issue to you.
Is it better to do standing up or laying down? Sorry, Jade, or sitting? Is there like a
No,
holistic
no
place
rules.
position? Okay.
No position. No.
I've done something kind of similar with my son before. Actually, I have two questions. But it wasn't, I don't know if this was the same name for it, but it was like all around the body, like even on parts of the shin and stuff to finish like circuits. Do you think that that's important, or it's just easier to just do the top half, or?
Okay. Meridian tapping is tapping all over the body, as you just mentioned. And that's what I learned at the beginning. Meridian tapping from the head, forehead, all over your face, shoulders, all the way down to your feet. And that's what I initially taught until EFT. I saw EFT and I learned EFT, where it's just simplified to just tap on those specific points. So
is there a reason though for it?
It depends on you, what works best for you.
Oh, okay. And then the other one is the surrogate tapping.
Yes.
You're not saying tapping on that person for them, you're saying kind of almost like be that person and tap how they would feel on yourself.
Both.
Okay.
You can, if you're going to tap on the person, physically tap on the person, I always tell people ask first, because to me, that's an invasion, and the loving thing to do is to ask. But your baby, yes, you know, tap on your baby.
Yeah.
So you can tap on the person physically, or tap, as you said, the second way, as the person. You're tapping on your body, and the words that you're saying are what you think the person may be feeling. And if the person can verbalize how they're feeling, say, just verbalize how you're feeling, and I'll tap on my body for you.
And they have to be willing to accept that as well, or you could do it even if they weren't accepting it, I guess.
Um, you can do it even if they don't accept it, but I'm just saying in terms of energy and karma, we to me, that's an abuse, or forcing something on someone. So I wouldn't do it, but everyone.
I was just curious. But
Yeah.
thank you though. Thank you for explaining.
Very cool. I could definitely tell the difference, you know, before and after.
Yes, that's what I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know how
Yeah.
each of you felt.
I definitely felt calmer.
Definitely dealing with some anxiety, and I felt like I was at about a 6 to start, and I feel like I'm like a 3 or 4. I think it also helps that your voice is really soothing. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah, but yeah, I definitely feel better.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you. You're most welcome. And if you do that, if you do that, you said you're at a 3. So if that's good for you, great. If you're like, oh, let's see if I can get it down a little bit lower, then after this event, I would tap again. Remember, please, to drink water. And sometimes for some people who have a lot of toxins, if they tap, they may feel a little dizzy, because again, you are unblocking energy. So it's good to just be gentle and drink a lot of water.
Is it something that you should do like as a daily practice, or as needed, or both, I guess?
I would say it's up to the individual. When I was going through those accidents and the depression and suicidal thoughts, I did it every day. And during COVID, I did it every day. I didn't get COVID, which was a blessing, and I didn't get the vax, which was a blessing. But I just tapped to keep the energy balance and to keep my immune system up and working.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
so
remember,
much.
it's all how you feel, because people are always trying to tell you these are rules, you do it this way, and it's time for us to respond to our own issues. So I say you have to take responsibility for your own health and healing, and stop allowing people to tell you shove this down your throat. So you take responsibility by, I'm feeling this way, I have something I can do about it, I can tap, and you tap. If you want to tap every day, you tap every day, and until you get to the point where, you know, I can skip a day, but it's up to you. You are in charge.
I like that it's so simple and you could do it anywhere. Like you could, be in traffic or in a meeting or whatever. It's not so like, gonna look so crazy going like this. Like,
Oh, no,
yeah.
yes, exactly. When I finally got to be able to get back into my car without freaking out, when I noticed I was still trembling, I'm left-handed, so I'd have my left hand on the steering wheel, and I would tap on the collarbone point with my right.
That makes sense.
And you can't tap anyway. If you look, you know how some people are always like banging their knees, you know, like they're anxious, and they're like keep doing their knees like this.
Mm-hmm.
they're tapping, right? That's tap, or they have their finger on their knee and they're just doing their fingers. They're tapping because it's soothing. The point there, the tapping really gives a relief. So that's what they're feeling.
Fascinating. Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Thank you so very much for sharing with us. This is amazing. Definitely much needed today. So
You're most welcome. Thank you all for coming.
is there any other questions before we close out? Good, awesome. Thank you so much, Tiffany. I really, really appreciate you sharing with us today. And thank you everyone for coming. And I will send this out in an email with a copy of the recording for everyone. Thank you, Keith, too. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome, Keith. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.